Okay, it looks like attendees we have Emily Wasmer, Kristen Lefebvre, Michelle Zouch, Nancy Fitzpatrick, Una Bouchard, Saskia Oosting, Wendy Rundle, and that is all the attendees.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get started with the regulations meeting, and in your package you should have had the latest iteration of 3.09. I'm announcing Jamie and Kathy will not be attending the meeting today. Gail, these are basically your corrections. I put in all of the kind of wordsmith corrections that you wanted in person and criteria based and board approved and those things. So I think that takes us to section 7. Well, actually, before that, section 6 and 7 are where changes were recommended. So,
Okay.
Gail, do you have any comments about it?
Hold on. Let me get to 6 or 7.
Yep.
I think the comment is straightforward. If anybody has any questions. I think that was why I highlighted it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we've been handling them. That is the way that it's described in the comment.
Okay.
Right, which is that, hold on. I think that's my comment.
Gail, this is Greg. I tend to agree with you, except I guess we could probably just clarify the language a little bit, because I agree that there's a potential for someone to go forward with a presentation or attend something and then find out later that it's not being approved. The way that it's written right now, I think.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about section 6 or section 7, Greg?
I am talking about the, let's see. Sorry, I just.
No.
I'm looking at 6 right now.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at, but I've lost it now.
Okay. All right.
Move.
So is there, do you have suggestions for changing the language or for section 6?
Well, I guess the first question is, do we agree with Gail or not?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have a question or agree or disagree?
I think it just has to be, because the wording just has to be clarified to that it's the request is received after the course has been presented, or I suppose in process, but
Mm-hmm.
in other words, the request, I think the problem is, okay, so let me figure this out. Request for retroactive approval. Courses already commenced or completed. No, I think it's just, I think my point was that the request has to come in before the course takes place, not before the board. The board meeting doesn't have anything to do with the timeliness of submittal. It has to come in before the course takes place, and then it's a normal course. I mean, just because the board doesn't meet, sometimes we don't meet in time, and I don't know how the wording has to be changed to fix that.
Chris, are you showing the text on your screen?
Yes.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, my
No, it
I'm
screen is.
doesn't.
looking at it on my own screen. That's the
Doesn't come up
problem.
on mine, so I'll open up the document.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it on my own screen. I mean,
Oh,
my
you're
own
not
computer.
seeing my shared screen, David?
No, no.
I'm not
It
seeing
says
it either.
waiting to view your screen.
There it is.
There we go.
How's this?
Better.
That helps. Thank you.
Now I'll go to the webinar there. Oh, and is my comment visible, but probably not completely?
Yes,
Oh, you can click, okay.
just move the,
Yeah.
the box.
So basically it just needs to say that it's not the timing of the board meeting that it has to come in before. It just has to come in before the course meets to be
Okay.
considered normally. That's what I was trying to say. I'm sorry if it's convoluted.
Before the course takes place.
Yes, yes, it isn't
Okay.
related to the board meeting.
Okay. All right. I will tweak the language and see whether or not you approve with what I come up with, or it needs further editing.
So
Okay.
can I just jump
Go-
in? This is Paul. Is the intent there that like the board would not approve a course if the request was not filed before the course was given?
No,
It's
that's not
disfavored.
what happened. It's exactly. Gail is pointing. The regs indicated that's a disfavored course of action, but the board has done it many times in the past.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
especially during COVID, especially over the past 2 years when things have been so erratic in terms of requests for approval and courses taking place. So, okay.
And the rationale for it needing to be in before the course takes place is because if you could send it in any time, we would get tons of requests just at renewal times when people, oh, this wasn't approved, let me send it in for approval. That's the rationale why it was in there in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the language is going to be changed to allow for retroactive approval.
No, it's changed. It's the language was changed from what it originally said. The way it's always been handled is that it needs to come in and that was I believe the original language. It needed to come in before the course met.
Right.
That was the original, and that's the way it's always been handled. The fact that it's disfavored is because you don't want everybody sending them in at the last minute, which they could do if you change the language to say, yeah, just send it in anytime, like the LEP board does.
So that's why disfavored is in there, that the board can take it up at the board's discretion to consider a course.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you want me to, my understanding is that I should work on the language there and represent it. Is that right?
Just the way we
Okay.
normally, to be the language
Yep.
the way we operate.
Okay. Before the course takes place is the gist of it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll work on that. And now that moves us to section, pardon me, B7. Subpart B7 and B8.
B7A. Is that the next comment?
Yes.
I think we already had that. We talked about this, I know. And we definitely, to me, it should be somehow tied to the number of hours of the course, the number of polling questions.
Okay, it says appropriate. I had from the last meeting.
Oh, you fixed it, right.
Yeah, appropriate to the length of the course.
Yes. Yeah, this is
Okay.
old. We fixed it.
Okay, so I should add appropriate to the length of the course for 7A.
Yeah.
And you guys correct me, please, if I'm wrong here. appropriate. Okay.
Yeah, I think that point about the one polling question per hour is probably a good way to go versus the 8 to 10.
I'm sorry, you had a lot of echo.
I was saying, I think that the comment regarding the one polling question per hour versus saying 8 to 10 makes sense.
All right. And maybe we should put it a minimum per hour.
Yeah, yes, I agree.
Let's say
Yep.
2 per hour or something.
You want, is that the language you're looking for, Greg? 2 per hour, 2 questions per hour?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be
Per hour.
that would be 16 polling questions in an 8-hour course. That seems excessive.
Okay.
They don't normally, providers haven't been normally doing that. I think
No, they haven't.
I think one per hour seems at a minimum. We call it at a minimum, and I think that seems fair. A 2-hour course, you'd have 2 appropriately placed questions. If you don't do that, the shorter ones, it's funny, the shorter ones, you want to make sure people are paying attention. We got to 16. That's a huge, that's like 15 minutes of the time of the course.
It just seems like one question in an hour course, though, might be a little
I know.
sparse, because
I
you
had
could
the
just
same reaction when I said it. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't work either. But for a 1-hour course, I don't know that you need more. I mean, if you placed it in the middle of the course, but we can't dictate that either. That's getting too specific. So maybe how do people feel about two per hour is a lot, but it does require you to pay attention.
two per hour for an 8-hour course sounds like a lot. It just seems like it's more.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is Greg. I guess maybe we just need to capture the 1 or 2 hour courses and say, 2 per hour or something, or especially a 1-hour course. I think twice during a 1 hour is not excessive for a 1 hour for a short course.
Okay, let me just jump in and say that it has to be consistent, and you have to define exactly the number of questions, because if you only capture, this is to addressing Greg's point, if you only capture the short courses, then what happens with the rest of them? I'm sorry, go ahead, Gail.
Maybe it's 1 per hour for any, except for 1 per hour for courses greater than, 2 hours in length, and then 2 per hour for shorter courses. Although I'm thinking a 4-hour course, that would be 4 polling questions. How does that sound for what we normally see in courses when we're doing them? Is that about right?
I think so.
I'll say that the Bedrock of Geology one that happened, I believe it was last week. It was a 4-hour course, and it had, I don't know, it was 8 or 9, and it didn't seem excessive, but I mean, 4 is a minimum.
For a 4-hour course, Paul, what you're saying then is that there were 2 per hour, which is exactly what Greg is saying, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is how to include language that defines the number of questions for a longer course. As you said, some of the courses are 8 hours? So 2 per hour is 16 questions, I think Gail said. So that seems excessive. Yes?
Well, it just seems excessive when you say it, but I know that I don't feel that, I don't know, 8 questions in a 4-hour course seems a little more than normal, but 4 hours in a 2-hour course seems normal. And I don't know why that is.
Seems like we have to break it up, like a course that's 1 to 4 and then maybe 5 to 8. Because I think the 2 polling questions for a course up to 4 hours is appropriate. And then we define something for a course that's greater than 4 hours.
I think we could do that. Like, just divide it
Yeah.
for courses of 1 to 4 hours in length, 2 per hour. For
Right.
courses 4 to 8 hours in length.
Is 8 to 10 polling questions or something
I
like
would
that.
say 1 per hour. And because
Okay, so let
you
me,
want it
I'm
spaced
sorry.
out over the time period.
Okay, I'm trying to take notes here. So, Gil, what you're proposing is 4 to 8 question. I'm sorry, a 4 to 8 hour course requires 2 questions per hour.
No,
One
4 to
question.
8 hours. No, 4 to 8 hours requires 1 question per hour. And I think we want to word it that way because we don't want them all at the end or all at the beginning or something like that. If we say 1
Okay,
per
and
hour.
1 per hour. And for courses that are 1 to 4 hours in length, how many polling questions?
2 per hour.
I'm sorry, 2 per hour. Is that what you
Yep.
said, Gail? You've got to
I think
echo.
that's what we all just said. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what we all agreed was reasonable.
Okay, 2 per hour.
And so for an
Okay.
8-hour course, theoretically, we would have, oh, it isn't the courses. Hold on.
Okay.
We want it to be in an 8-hour course. What do we want the total number of questions to be, 8 or 12? So in other words, a 5-hour course would have 5 questions. A 4-hour course would have more questions than a 5-hour course, the way it's worded.
Mm. That doesn't sound logical or
No,
consistent.
it doesn't sound logical.
No, it's not.
For
It's not.
hours one, so here's the thing. For hours 1 through 4, it's 2 courses. I don't know how to word it. Sorry.
2 questions. Okay, so 1 to 4 is 2 questions per hour, and 4 to 8. So can I just ask the members, why the distinction? Why shouldn't there be 2 questions per hour no matter how long the course? If you're doing it for the shorter courses, it seems even more applicable to courses that are longer in length when people might be distracted and not paying attention or leave or early or whatever.
I had the same thought process, but it's just so much time. It's a lot of questions.
It is.
Okay. So the premise is the longer the course, the fewer the number of questions.
But that isn't what we mean. I don't think that's what we mean, though.
Yeah,
I know, but that's the result.
I know.
Right. I think maybe we should just make this simple and just do 1 per hour, just no matter what the length. That way it's consistent and there's.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a minimum of 1 per hour.
Correct.
To give them the idea that maybe a couple more would be good.
Okay, so is that language? I'll try that language just to move us along. So minimum 1 per hour, Greg, and that's for every, no matter the length of the course. Does that
Yes.
capture everything you said? Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Minimum 1 question per hour, and I'll work with this no matter the length of the course. I won't use that exact language, but I'll tweak it for our next meeting. Okay, very good. Thank you. That's section 7.
I don't
Section
think I had any more
8.
comments.
I'm sorry, Gail.
I just said I don't think I had any more comments. I just went through.
Okay. All right. I thank you very much. I'll work with this and see what I can present to the board for the next meeting. Thank you. All right, I'm all set with that. The regulations. So I think, David, I'm all set. Thank you.
Deb, you got on the call?
I'm sorry?
Deb, you
Yes,
got
I'm
on?
sure. Yep, I'm
You're
here.
gonna meet-
Not sure what it was, but
Okay, well, I'm calling the continuing ed committee meeting to order, 12:35. We've already heard who's on from the public. Chris, do you want to go through it again?
Sure. Attendees are Emily Wassman, Kristen Lefebvre, Michelle Zelsch, Nancy Fitzpatrick, Una Bashad, Saskia Oosting, and Wendy Wendell.
Thanks. And so for the roll call, I have Craig, Gail, Greg, Kirk, Millie, Patrick, Paul, and Deb. Anyone else? So the second item on the agenda is virtual draft meeting minutes. Is there any update?
Yep, I am going to start posting the transcripts of the minutes next week. Posting them on the website. Again, you know, we don't have to post it all, as you know from the emails, the information that I forwarded to board members, but we're going to continue to practice, except that it's going to be the transcripts. And as I indicated at the May 17th meeting, they'll take the form of just the transcript. I'm just going through and making obvious corrections that spellings of names and courses and those sorts of things. I'm not making substantive changes. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
I don't know of any old business. Under new business, we have 3 new course approval requests. The first one is from the LSPA. It's the membership meeting June, which is today. 1 technical credit, looking for live webinar, and then also on demand. I make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Any discussion from the public or the board?
Hey, David, this is Millie. Have you been able to just discern just what are some of the new, I guess, whether it's nuances or bold statements relative to the conceptual site modeling that's being proposed?
I don't understand the question.
So the question is, with regards to the substance of the course that's being proposed, can you glean some of the new aspects of the conceptual site modeling, just the contents of the presentation?
I'd have to go back to the request, but it's the Loss Prevention Committee that had gone through notice of audit findings and providing suggestions based upon what they found. Is that correct?
Well, Chris can put up the actual submission, excuse me, but from the LSPA.
I can pull it up too.
Yep, Chris can throw it up, or share his screen rather.
Yeah, it's the Loss Prevention Committee reviewing notice of audit findings and where nature and extent were often cited as deficiencies. And they're going to talk about what the deficiencies were, I imagine, and how to improve on those.
Okay,
And I
thank
think
you
the
so much.
CSM part is just the importance of the CSM in doing all, is what I got.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's an old concept that's, I just was wondering if there was anything novel, but in general, it's always a good reminder for licensed site professionals. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they always do a good job going through the notice of audit findings and finding trends, and which is great for the community
Perfect.
to hear. So I'll go through the roll call. I guess is approving. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Greg, no Greg, Kirk,
Yes. Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. The second approval request is also from the LSPA, one technical on-demand course. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussions from the public or the board? I'll go through the roll call. A yes is approving. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk.
So Craig or Greg? C or G? Was that
Yeah.
Craig or Greg? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I have Craig, Gail, Greg, so I guess I should have mixed it up. Sorry.
That's right.
Kirk, you're the fourth one.
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
I'm a yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. The third course is Mass DEP offering on demand 2 DEP regulatory credits. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from the board or the public? I'll go through the roll call. A yes is approving. Craig with a C,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. There's one course approval request. It's a wetlands MCP wetlands regulation course that was approved and offered in 2016. It was originally 8 non-regulatory DEP credits. They revamped it. They've added a second Mass DEP instructor. They've changed some of the course content to update relative to the wetlands regs. And they are going to offer it again this fall, and they want it to be approved for 4 Mass DEP non-regulatory courses and 4 DEP regulatory courses. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from the board or public?
This is the wetlands regulation, the intersection of Wetlands Protection Act and the MCP, correct?
Yes. And it's
Thank you.
in classroom and then also in the field. So going through the roll call, yes is approval. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. There's one course announcement. The LSPA is offering approved course 1534 this month. And future meetings will be determined when we put the calendar together during the board meeting. And I'm ending the meeting at 12:44.
We have Wendy just said the LSPA has proposed postponed the surveying course that was submitted for June 22nd, 2022. We will inform the LSP board of the new date when we have it.
Okay, thank you.
Kurt, Jamie is not attending the meeting. Will you conduct professional conduct today?
Yes.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Call to order, 12:46. Virtual draft minutes.
My report is that, excuse me, the same as continuing as reported in the continuing ed meeting. I'll start posting minutes on the website next week. They will be the actual transcripts of the meetings minus any corrections, typographical corrections that have to be made. So I'm working my way through the 2 years worth of transcripts.
Okay. Well, any old business?
No.
None. Okay. Status of CRT.
05C will be discussed in executive session today. And I'm afraid I overpromised on the CRT reports, but I have a draft of 18C02 that I need to forward to the committee. I do need to add just one section to that report, and that is the LSP interview. So I'll get that done, and we'll be able to talk about it at the August board meeting. The only other action that I was able to take was forwarding 21C. As you know, the LSP responded on May 16th in 21C01. We selected a CRT, and that the LSP response, both the LSP response and the complaint was forwarded to the CRT members. But this case, if you will remember, is a very large case. I think the CRT members will agree with that. So the issue is getting it redacted so that it can go to the board for review. I don't know, to be honest, whether or not I'm going to be able to have that done by August, but it depends on whether or not we're able to get some support staff. And I have a further report on, I have an update on support staff.
Beverly?
But that's it.
How much of it has to be redacted for the board to look at?
For the board to look at both sets of documents, the site.
I don't think the board doesn't look at all of the documents. They only look at the complaint and the response.
That's what I'm saying. The complaint,
but the complaint itself, without, I mean, maybe it would be reasonable to see if the board could come to a decision without any the attachments, because it would be ridiculous for them to read all through that. It's just too much.
Okay. I think that's a good idea.
If they feel, if people feel differently after looking at the complaint and the response, that would be different.
Let me just say that Gail and Greg are the CRT staff members on this ARP. So, Greg, do you agree with that? Because actually, we might be able to get that done much more quickly without
Yes.
the attachment.
Yes, no, I think
You
that's a
do?
good idea.
Okay. All right. Well, then it will be ready by August. So 21C, I need to redact just the complaint and the
And the
LSP
response.
response. Yep, I got it. And the LSP response, which are much shorter, obviously. Okay. All right. I can get that done. I can get that done.
And Beverly, if it turns out that people aren't comfortable, then it might be possible. I don't want to promise anything for Greg, but maybe we could read through it and be able to answer some questions about which documents would be relevant to some of the questions people have.
Okay. So a mini session by the board, basically, of the redaction of the redacted documents to see whether or not they need all of which attachments they need.
Can I ask you why the board is seeing it now? Did we not vote to accept it as a CRT?
Yeah, we did.
No, we don't. Then the board has already voted on it, so they don't need to see anything. Or have they not seen the complaint? That's what I thought. I was wondering, did we vote on it just to get it moving so that we could have a CRT and then, but the board has to officially vote to accept it?
I think the board
Yes.
should see the complaint and the response.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying. That's all I think that normally we get. And the problem is that so many attachments came with it that it seems,
It's huge. It's a huge file. I wouldn't be able to send it. It's a huge, electronically. It's a huge file. It would have to be mailed. So I think that the CRT member's suggestion is a good one, but if the board needs to vote on whether or not to accept the complaint, that's something else. Again, as Kurt says, then people will want to see it. See the redacted documents.
Well, I think that the thing is, what I was saying is, if it's not accepted, we don't have a CRT, but we will have seen it enough to be able to answer questions and say which documents might be most relevant for people to need to see to make a decision if they don't feel they can make a decision without it.
I think that's what I think. Go ahead.
Wendy
I think
just
that's
said,
what. Go ahead, Chris.
Wendy just said, typically the LSP board shares the redacted complaint in the LSP letter with the public as well. I expect that would continue for the August meeting.
Yeah, the redacted complaint always goes out with the packet.
Yeah.
All right. So what I think that's everybody's correct on that. And yes, Wendy, we'll continue the practice. So it's just what we're talking about now is whether or not to send all the attachments, and what Gail and Greg have recommended as VCRT members on the panel is that only those two documents be redacted, not all of the attachments, which would expedite the board members' review. So I think that's what we've agreed to, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll get that done. Thank you. That's all I had.
So I have a clarifying question for Gail. Are you saying that there's a recommendation that was made through the Professional Conduct Committee for vote at the board meeting?
I think what happened is, because it was such a large file, it's almost like, let's say it's a screening team was set up. Let's call Greg and I the screening team instead of the CRT.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And then, but that's partly, and I think now, having seen all the documents, I think that makes sense to be called the screening team, so that we will be familiar enough with the documents so that when the board sees the redacted versions, we can fill in blanks to say whether or not it makes sense to carry it forward.
Okay, correct. So what I'm asking is for the board meeting, should I be looking to, to have a motion to take a vote on this approach? That's my question.
I think the trouble is we've already been assigned, I think at the last meeting.
Okay, so I won't be looking for any recommendations from this committee then at the board meeting. Thank you.
Well, Millie, I don't know. Hold on, Gail. Actually, you have the screening committee or the CRT, whichever we're calling you and Greg have recommended that we only submit part of what was submitted to the board. So that is a recommendation, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was getting at, and you're absolutely correct.
Yes.
Then we will all do a roll call, and those that agree say yes, and then we carry that forth.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be brought up in the board meeting part, because when we vote on something in professional conduct and we're all here, it stands. Even if we're not all here, it stands.
So are we ready
long
to
as
take
there's
a
a
vote?
quorum.
Is that what you're suggesting?
I think that might be what we're suggesting. You want to suggest it, Millie? Make a motion?
Yep. So that's back to you, Kurt. So there's no motion on the floor. So we need a motion. So Kurt will call for that.
If you think it warrants a motion, I just think that if you get the board out, the complaint redacted, the response redacted, in the next packet, I think we'll be okay. I don't know if there's a need for a vote for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. New business?
No.
Future meeting. Okay. Adjourning at 1 o'clock.
Excuse me.
Okay, so can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Not sure what I did to the camera, but in any event, I'll just move forward. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. First of all, welcome to the LSP board meeting, and I'm calling this meeting to order at 12:58 p.m. With regards to announcement, I just wanted to say thank you, Beverly, for updating the website. I did see some changes, including an announcement that shows that notice to applicants for the LSP exam, and it speaks to the LSP licensing examination will be offered in late summer or early fall 2022, and specific registration instructions will be forwarded to all eligible applicants. So that was a new announcement. I don't know if anybody else has any additional announcements they wish to share with the board members or the public. So hearing none, I will move to the agenda adoption portion of this meeting. So I don't have any changes to this meeting agenda as proposed. Does anyone have any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda?
Move to approve as written.
Second. So the agenda is adopted as our final meeting agenda. Virtual draft meetings, meeting minutes. Beverly already provided us with a summary, so thank you so much for your hard work there, Beverly. We appreciate being able to have some corrections in terms of just typographical errors, etc., in uploading onto the web page. So item number 5, the decision with regards to licensing of applicants. I just want to make sure that the board members recognize that we were provided with an updated docket for today's board meeting, so just be mindful of that. And today we need to take vote on 2 renewal dockets. And docket number 1 consists of 3 LSPs who have completed all the requirements for renewal by July 30, 2022.
Motion
And
to
whose
approve.
license will now have a new renewal date of July 30, 2025. If there are no questions, I move to approve docket number 1. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. So please say yes when I call your name. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Melissa, yes. Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
Motion carries. Docket number 2, it consists of 1 LSP who has completed her requirements within the 90-day extension that was granted to her, and she'll now have a new renewal date of April 30, 2025. If there are no questions, I move to approve docket number 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please say yes when I call your name. Greg,
Yes.
and I apologize, Craig, just to mix it up there. Gail,
Yes.
and just for good measure, Greg,
I thought you were sticking it to us there. Yes.
thank you. Kirk,
Yes.
Millie's a yes. Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on, we've got the application review panel. If Beverly, you don't mind providing us with a reporting on all the ARPs.
ARP 325 met on June 2nd, 2022. The first review was of Emily Wassmer's reapplication, and the panel recommended that she be permitted to sit for the licensing exam. Again, this was a reapplication, and the members looked at the references and saw that Ms. Wassmer had met the 5 years of required RPE, and she actually ended up with 6 years and 8 months of RPE. They also found that Ms. Wassmer, in her reapplication, met the 8-year requirement of TPE, and she actually had 9 years and 8 months of TPE, and they found that she was a principal decision maker. She had principal decision maker experience. So her reapplication, was approved. The application of Ms. Gorzinski was denied. The ARP, also 325, same panel members, excuse me, decided that the applicant had 9 years and 7 months of TPE, but failed to meet the RPE, relevant professional experience requirement. They looked at the references and noted that the applicant's experience, while the applicant's experience increased over time, and in the words of one of the references specifically, the applicant's experience has grown steadily over time. pardon me. But in total, the applicant did not meet the requirements of TPE. RPE. I will be drafting a denial letter. As is my practice, I called the applicant to inform them that a letter would be forthcoming and to specifically discuss the findings of ARP 325. The last application review panel was for Evan Koos. I hope I'm pronouncing Mr. Koos's name correctly. That was ARP 326. That panel met on June 13th, 2022, and it was a reapplication, or the initial application had been tabled, and the ARP asked for more information, and they got it. They specifically looked at the projects and felt like the LSP had demonstrated RPE, that his task management had grown or changed, rather, evolved, rather, and to the point where he was the principal decision maker. I just wanted to make sure I noted one particular thing about this applicant who had experience. If this is the applicant, I'm trying to make sure, sorry. So the applicant in the reapplication, he backfilled the RPE from 2016 through 2018 because there was a gap, but I thought that this applicant had experience outside of Massachusetts, and I just wanted to point out that that wasn't disqualifying. And he was approved to sit for the exam. That's it.
Thank you, Beverly. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Beverly, if you could kindly provide us with an update regarding other licensing matters, and might as well go through item 12.
The board have to, doesn't the, oh shit. Doesn't the board have to vote on the recommendations of the ARP?
Yes, of course, yes.
Okay.
So is there a second to a motion to approve the recommendations? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please say yes when I call your name. Craig?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Millie is a yes. Patrick?
Yes.
Paul?
I believe I have to recuse on 325, but I'm a yes on 326.
Thank you. Deb
Yes.
and David.
Yeah.
Motion carries to move forward with the recommendations from the ARP. Okay, so Beverly, if you could basically provide us with an update regarding items 6 through 12.
Okay, there are 454 active LSPs. There are 2 LSPs who are on inactive status. One of those LSPs, Mr. Palermo's inactive status ended in June of 2020. I do not know whether or not Mr. Palermo has completed requirements for renewal, but his 2 years of inactive status ended June 17th.
Okay.
And with respect to unpaid annual fees, the board members had asked for a memorandum on the regulations, and I provided that. Unfortunately, it wasn't received until 11 this morning, so I don't know. And it was more detailed. I provided more detail, so I don't know whether or not. I'm pretty sure nobody's had a chance to review it, so I open it up for comments about that.
Beverly, this is Greg. I did read it quickly, but and there's a lot of information there, and I think it warrants a good conversation. And obviously, some people may not be ready to do that.
Other comments or?
I just had a chance to literally skim it, so, and I certainly would like to look at it in detail, and so we could discuss it. I think it's
Yes.
a valuable exercise.
Yeah, motion to table it till next meeting.
Yeah, I think that what I did was give the board a comprehensive analysis. So hopefully, and it's my recommendation that we table it so that you can ask me any questions that you have about the memo. I'm also going to provide a copy of that memo to the LSP, who is the subject of the memorandum.
Beverly, this is Greg. I recognize we don't want to discuss it now, but I will just bring your attention to one question that I have so you can think about it to the next time. Under Section 3, regulatory scheme, in the second paragraph beginning conversely, you lay out the idea that the board actually has the ability to waive any requirement, limitation, or provision. And how do you reconcile that statement with some of the other questions you've raised about, serious questions you've raised about precedent? So again, we don't need to talk about it now. I just wanted you to think about that. I'm sure you have.
Yes, I thought about it a lot. I think that it would be better for, and I agree with you, Greg. I'm happy to answer that question, and it is a good question. I just think that everybody should have the opportunity to review it and write out their questions, including the LSP, who is the subject of the matter, and respond if he or she chooses to. So
yes, I didn't want to have a discussion. I just wanted you to be prepared for that.
Yep. I'm happy to do that. So can we reach consensus on that point?
Yes,
We'll look at it next time.
Yeah, I just wanted to know path forward after reviewing, and this is for discussion, but basically by way of some summary of the decision that was made, or just to give rise for any opportunity if somebody felt like they voted differently or they understood the facts differently. I just want to understand because it has a conclusion. So as I read it, it seems to me that, Beverly, what you have done here is basically just provided the board with all of the elements of discussion, like an enumeration of all of the discussion points, and then it summarizes in a conclusion. So
Yes.
do we review it for accuracy, or do we review it with a window for a reverse? I just want to understand. I just want to wrap my head around.
Okay, so the issue is whether or not there is good cause, because the board didn't rule on that, and I raised this at the May 17th meeting, and I need to have good cause because this is precedent setting, and the regulation 2.12 requires it. The other thing about it is all these issues on the periphery and how, for instance, the board's decision will impact other regulations and and not just other regulations, but other entities. And there is this matter of the period of revocation. So the board voted to revoke the LSP's license. So during that period of revocation, the LSP cannot hold themselves out to be an LSP, signing LSP documents and performing hazardous waste site cleanup work. And so all of those things are in the memo and they have to be resolved. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yes.
Yes.
So there
So
are
we're looking,
matters that are open matters that warrant discussion and further decision making.
yes.
We've got a
And
motion
I
to
was
table.
requesting,
Is there a second?
yes. And one more thing before we do that, I was asked to draft the memo, if you recall.
Yes.
So that was that. Go ahead, Kurt. I'm sorry.
No, I think there was a motion and there was a second to table it.
Okay. Okay. So there's who made. We want to make sure the record is clear. Who made who moved to table the matter and who was the second?
Kurt Franklin was I motioned to table it. I looked at the email, I just looked at it now. It came about 15 minutes before the meeting.
Yeah, I said that, Kurt.
I got two questions from the public. The first one is from Wendy Rundle. It says, is this memo you're discussing about Mrs. Oosting's license? And then Ms. Oosting asked what case is being discussed at this time. If this is a memo about my case, I did not receive a copy of this memo.
I said that. And Ms. Oosting, thank you. I'm sending it to you right now. It didn't go out until this morning.
Okay, so we have a motion to table this discussion until the board members and others have an opportunity to review. Do I hear a second?
Second.
So with that, we're going to take a vote. Gail? Pardon me,
Yes.
Craig?
Yep.
Gail?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Millie is a yes. Patrick?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carries to look at this memo with an eye on the matters, on the issues that Beverly raised, including but not limited to if there was good cause. Thank you.
So looking at item 6B9, there are 3 unpaid renewals for January, annual fee payments for January 2022. I do not know whether or not those 3 LSPs are retired or just have inadvertently not paid their fees, but Barbara is in the process of sending certified letters pursuant to the first and second notices to those LSPs. For April 2022, there are 2 LSPs who have not completed their renewals. And I'm mistaken, there are 7 LSPs who have not paid their annual fee. There are 3 LSPs who have not renewed their license that was due January 30th, 2022. So I'm just going to correct the record. 7 unpaid 2022 annual fees, 3 unpaid renewals for January 2022, and 2 unpaid renewals for April 2022.
Hey, Beverly, it's Paul McKinley here. Just a question and just more curiosity. Do we reach out to the LSPs directly, like send them an email and say, hey, you haven't paid your dues, and try and prompt them other than a letter? I mean, I'm just in these days, poke them, with different formats, email and letter, and see if there's an error there.
Well, it depends on the regulation. Whether or not we reach out to them, but before a license is suspended or revoked, I make a courtesy phone call.
Okay.
So, but it's not required. It's not required, but I do make phone calls, yes. But they get the letters, and all we're required to do under the regulations is issue the notices in accordance with the requirement. So, for example, 2.09 requires 2 notices sent by certified mail. So that's what we follow in those cases. Under, excuse me, with respect to the renewals for January and April, under 3.06, they get the LSPs receive letters notifying them of the suspension. I don't get involved with phone. I don't make phone calls until the very end of the notification process, Paul, but I do make them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering out loud if, with COVID times and, paper mail has been a challenge. So I'm just wondering if electronic mail may be another, better venue to try and, prompt an LSP to, if they're not paying their dues, if there's a reason why, such as they didn't get the notice, and electronic mail may be a better format. And again, I'm just more of a comment.
This board does more than most other licensing boards when it comes to chasing down people.
Quickly,
yeah, I do the chasing, Paul. So,
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I just
we try very hard, and this is and I agree with you. It's an especially acute problem and a challenge during even still during this time of COVID and people continuing to telework. But they're required to do it every 3 years. They're required to pay their annual fee once a year in by March 1st. And I think the one thing that the board has already agreed on is that LSPs are responsible for responding to notices of renewal and notices regarding their annual fees. So, yeah.
Just to jump back, we got another comment from Ms.
Oh,
Houston.
yes.
There was no opportunity for public comment. I was not even given a copy of this memo until after the vote was taken.
The vote was to table.
What I can say, Ms. Oosting, is that you got the memo only 2 hours after the board, which is why the board members, which is why they've tabled the matter, and you are free to comment or send any response that you have to the LSP board for hearing and to attend the meeting where this is discussed. you're not going to be cut out of the discussion of this. Are there any further comments, or can I move on to the exam committee report? Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
she
please
hasn't
proceed.
said anything yet.
Craig, you have something? I'm sorry, not Craig, Chris. Getting my
No, I
T's
just
crossed.
said she has not responded to what you just said. That was what I read was her last comment.
Okay, and Ms. Usting, the board wants to, and I am speaking for them, and I'm, they will correct me if I misspeak, of course, but no one intends to leave you out of the process, and everyone we will afford you any and every opportunity to respond to the memo that you just received a few moments ago. Okay, so the exam committee is meeting tomorrow. Chris has been allowed access at the last meeting on May 25th. We looked at all the questions and we discussed, Chris Borges prepared a spreadsheet, and obviously I'm not going to talk about exactly what was on the spreadsheet, but we looked at how many questions we need per section. There was a hiccup with respect to the license of the software for the exam, so we were kind of limited in what we could do on the 25th, but a license has been extended. They got an extension on a license, so we're going to be able to meet tomorrow. Again, I have not formalized the contract with the psychometrician, but we've engaged one and have talked about next steps. If there is no comment about item 11, I'm going to move on to item 12. As you know, there were excuse me, an examinee who failed the LSP exam offered on December 2021, challenged some questions. I submitted I typed up those challenges and submitted them to our technical expert who reviewed the questions, and we have a response. I'm not ready to present the matter to the board for a vote yet because I want to review the technical experts' recommendations with the exam committee. And David Austin and Gail Batchelder as co-chairpersons of the
Exam Challenge Review Committee, whatever that is.
Yes. We didn't have an official title for it, so thank you, Gail. I was struggling, obviously. So the Exam Challenge Review Committee is David and Gail, and the way this process functions is the examinee came in, he or she looked at the exam they had 2 hours. They challenged, I believe, 9 questions. They were reviewed by our technical expert. The technical expert has made some recommendations, and we're going to look at those and talk about them and then present them at the recommendations to the full board. So we'll have that ready for the August meeting. That was all I had.
Great, thank you so much, Beverly. So now we'll hear from David with regards to a report from today's continuing education meeting?
Oh, yeah, we met today, continuing ed committee meeting. We learned that transcripts of past meetings will be started to be posted next week on the website. We approved 3 new courses. We approved 1 reoffering, and next meeting is to be determined.
Great, thank you.
And we need
Great.
to vote.
Motion to accept.
Second.
So motion to accept the recommendations. We have Greg,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Gail, Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Millie is a yes, Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to professional conduct committee. If Kirk, you could give us an overview, a report back.
Sure. 05C07, we're going to talk about an executive session. 18C02, hopefully have the draft by August. 21C01, we're looking to get a redacted copy of the complaint in response to the board and in the package for next month. And that's it. Motion to accept?
We don't need to vote. It's just a report from the committee.
Okay.
Okay, Beverly, if you can move us to item 15.
Uh, 15A, the Regulations Committee met today and discussed hopefully final edits to 309 CMR 3.09. I'm going to tweak the language for those final, for that final set of changes, and hopefully we'll be able to finish with the amendments to this section at the August meeting, approve amendments to this section of the regs at the August meeting. Personnel budget and fees. The applications for the 3 positions on the board have closed, and I have to go in now and see into Mass Careers and see who applied and whether or not we want to pull any of those candidates in for interviews. But for all 3 positions, the time to apply has closed. With respect to the board member trip request, there is one person who remains interested in the trip request, and I'm trying to sort that out with EEA. Hopefully by the August meeting, I may have someone on staff if we can get this sorted out over the next few weeks. With respect to the public records request, I don't know what's going on with the public records request, but we seem to be getting a number of requests for information on disciplinary matters. So I completed the public records request regarding discipline for Salem News. If you'll recall that they had the reporter had asked for information on disciplinary matters from 2013 through 2022. And I've provided all that information to that reporter over the past month. There has been another request for information on a specific LSP and a disciplinary matter that was instituted against that LSP in 2002 and 2003. I have provided some, I had to notify the data subject, obviously the LSP, and go through the files that we had. So I provided some of the information to the requester. I have to go back because some of the information obviously is 20 years old. So some of the files were scanned, some of them are paper, and they're not syncing. We have no paper for some of the records, and some of the scans were incomplete. So I have to try and figure out with the requester what we have. We're not obligated to create documents that don't exist. I just notified the requester that there may be some documents that have been destroyed or otherwise lost. I don't know that yet, but there is one public records request that's still pending. With respect to item 15E, the LSP board office's relocation, I met with a vendor that has been hired to clean up the files and pack up the LSP documents on May 19th. And so they haven't started yet. I don't know whether or not that's a hold up with respect to the contract, but I did meet with the vendor. So the vendor was supposed to provide an estimate. I just haven't seen it on the estimate of the cost. And so there is this issue of a lot of files that are just in crates in the office that have to be alphabetized and filed in the LS information that has to be filed in the LSP's files, and then a separate part of the contract is for the vendor to actually pack up everything in anticipation of the move. I don't know if the move is going forward yet, but we're trying to get ready to move. And with respect to, that brings us to item 16 and setting the 2022-2023 calendar of board meetings. So the next board meeting should be in August of 2022. I think that would be August 16th. Is that we're going to, first of all, I have to ask the board members, are we sticking to Tuesdays, and are we doing the second or third Tuesday of each month? Suggestions from the board members?
Yeah. So I suggest the second week and stick to the Tuesdays also.
Other comments? Hearing none.
I would like
The
this,
next,
Greg,
yes, Greg,
Greg,
go
just,
ahead.
I don't have any problem sticking to the second Tuesday, but for August, I will not be able to attend the second Tuesday at 9. So on the 9th, that's, I'm just one member.
And now that we have Paul and Craig, we're not so member dependent, Greg, so you can absolutely miss that meeting. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah. Okay, so, pardon me. This would mean that the next board meeting will be August 9th. That's
Okay.
actually, I'm not going to be able to make that meeting. So, for the August meeting, are people okay with switching to the third Tuesday, which would be August 16th? Does anyone have a conflict on that date?
David does.
Millie does. But that's okay. We have additional members.
I know, but you're the chairperson, so you would need to be there to conduct the meeting. Do people have suggestions other than the 9th? Would the 10th, that Wednesday, work? Would the 17th?
How about the
Okay.
10th? How about the Wednesday, the 10th?
Okay. Millie, will that work for you, the 10th, August 10th?
I'm looking right now.
Yes, and others. I'm sorry, I'm not excluding the rest of the board members.
This Craig works for me.
I apologize, Beverly.
August.
It'll be a second.
Nope, not at all.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but no July meeting?
No, we usually don't meet in July, and actually I'm going to need that month to figure out about the move, to talk, to schedule interviews for applicants, applicants for staff positions, and catching up on the professional conduct cases and trying to move some of those along. But it's typically a month that we use for programming, Paul.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Beverly, I just looked, and actually the 10th and the 16th, I looked at the wrong date. They're both good.
Okay. So is there any objection to scheduling the board meeting for August 10th? Well, I'm sorry, August, what did you say, Millie? The 16th, that doesn't work for you, David?
The 16th, oh, it's wide open. I was looking at the wrong date. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
David, did you say the 16th won't work for you?
Correct. That's the one I have a conflict with, but I'm only one person and I'm available the 10th, Wednesday.
So am I, Beverly.
Yeah, 10th works.
I'm not going to be in the office that week. So.
Okay. Well, how about,
So we're looking at the week of the 15th, August 15th.
okay.
And just stick with the 16th.
Okay.
How do people
Because
feel about Monday, the 15th?
Mondays aren't good for
Okay.
these meetings.
How about Thursday, the 18th?
That will work for David. Will that work for others? Thursday, the 18th, August 18th?
Greg is available.
This is Patrick. I'll be on vacation.
Okay. Okay. Patrick, are you on vacation the entire week? Will the 17th, is the 17th better for folks, or? I know we're not going to get everyone's agreement on this, but.
Yeah.
I will. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I'm available on the 17th anytime after 1 p.m.
Okay, so you would just miss the regulations meeting, right? Or
No, professional conduct and continuing ed.
oh yeah, okay. All right. So is it only Patrick who can't meet on the 18th? Patrick, I'm sorry. If it's only you, would you mind if we went forward on the August 18th?
That's kind of you to ask, but please proceed.
I'm of the same opinion. because I'm not available
Okay.
that week, so that's fine. Go for it.
Okay. All right. All right, now I'm confused. Do we do the 16th or the 18th? Because Gail,
Either one.
yeah.
Why don't we
Gail,
stick to the
now
16th?
Gail, it now matters whether or not you're available on the 16th or the 18th. If David is out, you have to conduct, obviously, the continuing ed meeting. So it all rests on your shoulders. What do you say?
Okay, I'm available either day. So 16th
on
is
the
fine.
16th.
It's-
All right.
To stick to the Tuesdays to keep our lives easier.
All right. Very good. We've got that. Yay. Okay. So the next board meeting will be August 16th. And then looking at September, the second Tuesday in September is September 13th. Please correct me if I'm
That's correct.
stating the wrong. Yep. The second Tuesday for our meeting in October will be the 11th. That'll be the day after Columbus Day, which is, I think, a holiday, right? But so October 11th works for folks. Very good.
Yes.
I'll run through the entire schedule once we're done. Okay, and so the last meeting of the calendar year would be in November, and that date would be Tuesday, November 8th. Will that work for everyone? Okay, November 8th, 2022. Yes. Very good. Thank you, Gail. Moving into, we don't meet in December because clearly we have too many conflicts, but it's also, I'll also be definitely offering the exam in December. Pardon me. So January, we're looking at January 10th. That's the second Tuesday.
Yes.
And we're moving to February. February, that would be the 14th. That's school vacation week. Will that be a conflict for a lot of people, or?
Yes, Paul here.
Yes.
Is the week of the 14th,
Okay.
the school vacation is the week of the 20th on President's Day now?
I'm
Yeah, I was
sorry,
gonna say
you were breaking.
vacation week is probably the week of the 20th in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Is
presidents.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so the February meeting is Valentine's Day. Is that right?
Yeah.
It is.
February 4th. Yep, February 14th, 2022. March, the meeting would also be March 14th. I'm sorry, 2023. March 14th, 2023. Okay, and the April meeting would be, again, we have school vacation week. Is that, okay.
No, that's the 11th.
That would probably be the week of the 17th. So the 11th would work. April 11th,
Yes.
2023, and the May meeting would be May 9th, 2023, and closing out the fiscal year, the board meeting would be June 13th.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. All right, so I'm going to review the calendar now. It'll be posted on the website this week. The next board meeting will be August 16th, 2022, September 13th, 2022, October 11th, 2022, November 8th, 2022, January 10th, 2023, February 14th, 2023, March 14th, 2023, April 11th, 2023, May 9th, 2023, and June 13th, 2023. So I'll send the calendar to the board members, and it'll be posted on the LSP board website.
Great, that sounds great, Beverly.
All set.
Okay, so before we adjourn, I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session right after this meeting to discuss certain status of certain CRTs. And do I have a second?
Second,
Please say yes when I call your name. Craig,
Yes.
Gail,
yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Melissa, yes, Patrick,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
and David.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries to hold the executive session. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Board meeting is adjourned at 1:51 p.m. And we will enter into executive session right after this.
I will,
Would you
this is
provide
Chris.
instructions, Chris?
Yep, I will send out invites. Give me about 5 minutes and you
Yes,
should receive the invite.
Perfect. We'll take a 5-minute
Can I ask a
break.
question why we need to go offline? You control who's participating.
Because technically I would have to go on individually and kick attendees off periodically. They would be able to still come on because the link to this meeting
I see.
is
Sorry.
still live.
Okay.
Yep.
So I
it's-
have to create a new, yeah.
I thought you could just bar anybody from coming
No,
on.
I
but
think this is just the way we've done it before and it's worked.
I know, and I didn't understand it then either, so, but that's why I'm speaking up.
Yeah, great. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. And we'll see everybody back on August 6th, pardon me, coming up August 16th.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Right.